once we get a new customer, what's the process? What happens next? And a lot of companies don't have that.
Welcome back to another episode of the Revenue Reimagined podcast. We are stoked to have Scott Marker with us today. Scott is a B2B sales and marketing strategist with over 30 years of success. We'll talk about that in a minute. Having elevated sales and profits for Fortune 500 companies and startups alike, Scott, like us, is a hands-on practitioner when it comes to B2B marketing and sales strategies, something that we love. We don't like consultants here. And he believes that his superpower is for simplifying complex problems. In his new book, he chats about how buyers can avoid interactions with avoid interactions with salespeople due to misaligned KPIs, fucked up compensation structures, and advocates for a new customer-centric model. Near and dear to our heart. Scott, welcome to the show, man.
Hey, thanks for being here. Big fan of the show and you guys for a long time, as you know.
Appreciate it.
Thanks, Scott. Appreciate you joining. And as you know, since you've watched a couple of these episodes, one of the first things we like to ask founders is that origin story. Like, why did you start the company? What gets you up in the morning to keep going with the company you're running?
I actually got two companies. I got a franchise, which is a once a month like networking groups that I have local business owners here. We get together and we help each other grow our businesses. And off of that, I get some, like sales and marketing type jobs. And then on the side, which has always been when I was a sales professional for years and not in leadership, I started picking up some consulting jobs just by people talking to me. And I'm just really, sales is just something I really love. And I think I'm pretty good at. And then from there, I started leading a company, two small companies. It was really the first time I had the official role of, within the first year, I was promoted to director of marketing and sales and actually customer service too, of two companies. And that's when I wrote my first book. And off of that, when you write a book, a lot of people ask you to speak, and I got consulting type jobs of coming and helping me, with their stuff. So that's where I set up my other company. That I basically help people with some marketing, but mainly it's sales. That's really where my strength's at. And cool. And like I said, and my first book was called Realistic, with like a parentheses around the real, strategies of winning the sales game. Because a lot of the stuff I listen to podcasts, sales podcasts, and they just are, I call it dinosaur sales. They're locked in the past, How do you get more sales? Well, get up earlier and be the first person on the dial and the last person to leave. Oh, wow.
But there's a lot of that still out there, right? There's a lot of people who truly believe that it's all activity based. Show up early, leave late, make the dials, harass your customers. And we'll talk about this a little bit, and then the comp plan is driven on such, right? BDRs are comped on activity. Sales reps have managers who all they look at other than the revenue is like, oh, how many dials did you make? And how many people are you talking to? Like, how do you start that shift? Because when you have old school leaders, that is their mentality and that's what they were hired to do. How do you go in and change that mindset without being told you're the wrong consultant or the wrong operator for me, because this is how I believe it needs to be done?
And most people, you don't. I mean, I interviewed. I that's part of the thing. I like interviewing like people for my book. I like doing that better than writing the book. It was just fun listening to all these. I mean, I interviewed people and that were $1 billion. It's weird. Hey, I want to interview for my book, and I got lots of people, and most of them said, don't agree with me 100% on what my theme of my book and stuff, but don't talk about it because we're screwed up as ever. I mean, we're really screwed up here. That was a pattern I heard from the smallest companies to the biggest. So back to your original question, it's not even the 80-20 rule. It's like the 95-5 rule. There's only 5% of people that want to do something different, and the rest of the sales, now that they go to market leaders or revenue leaders, they're still stuck in the past because I just think they're scared to change, or it must be because it's the I have a joke about a lot of these leaders that keep doing the same stuff and expecting not different results. They expect better results. So there's not a lot of people I don't. A good example is just here recently, again, I had a local business owner that reached out to me. They know sales and stuff. Hey, do you know any good salespeople? I'm looking for a salesperson. And I always say, first thing I go, oh, that's great. How much you paying? Oh, that's right. I got to pay them.
I mean,
Because they're almost
yeah.
all high commission, or all commission. Anyway, and that's where, so no, it's a long way to say most leaders are still stuck in the past and they're not going to change. And that's where there's a huge opportunity for a few people to make the change. And that's what my book is. I mean, it's going to be, 5% or 1% of people that change, they're going to have a competitive edge.
Yeah. And when you go, so to follow up on the question on how do you get them to change, like what are 3 things that you've seen that people make that mind shift set to actually make that change? Like, is it identifying the problem? Like, what are the 3 things that people usually find in the interviews that you've done that actually made those shifts?
Most of them are lost. They don't know what to do. And so the few people that I helped out, they come to me because they're just lost. And when they start talking to me, I can really break down the whole process of sales really simply. And they go, wow. Because before, most of them don't have a plan. The plan is go out and get more business. They don't have any plan for their salespeople. So I mean, most of them don't. I mean, what me personally, what I tell them is I give them a framework. I call it the strategic customer cycle. And it's what's not going to change in your company. Because a lot of times people talk about getting better at sales, but they don't know how to kind of break it down. So I have a model, which I probably should add here, but it's retention, qualifying, prospecting, converting, fulfilling, supporting, and expanding, go in that cycle. And I go, okay, here's your company. Where are you struggling? And
Where
that's I
do
call
they
it
say they struggle the most? Where's that struggle plays for most of them?
prospecting and converting. They won't admit the other ones, but once I get in there, a lot of times I find out it's the fulfilling's a problem too. In other words,
Right.
they let their salespeople bring in any type of customer just to get them across the line, and then they bring in the wrong customer, so then that screws up the fulfillment because the customer service can't fulfill it. I mean, can't support a customer that has expectations that are wrong, or they're the wrong type of customer.
And then you have high churn, and then you're wondering why your churn's bad. And
Yep. So that's how I kind of simply like because a lot of times when you ask them what the problem is, they don't know. They're we got a lot of turnover. Sales isn't where we want it. So I always give them my framework and say, okay, where's your trouble in your company? And then that's where I'm really good at it because I've used that tool a lot, and it helps me help them focus on where their problems are.
So when you're working with companies, Scott, are you typically working with founders, revenue leaders, and what size companies are you working with? And the reason I ask is I think this problem is vastly different depending on whether you're talking to a seed company, a B company, a Fortune 500 company, and a Fortune 50 company.
Probably 95% of my companies are small or startups. And I've had a couple that I've helped out, like Verizon back in 2019. Oh boy, that's a long time ago. 2013. There's one of my biggest ones. They were Fortune 50 at the time, #1 training company, and the local person for all the commercial people here weren't happy with what, and so she talked to me about, and I gave her the strategic customer cycle. Said, "Where's your problem?" And then she paid me a chunk of money to come help do a kickoff for them. Anyway, but most of them are small ones, and it's just funny because there's no plan. There's absolutely no plan. I worked for a startup for a while, and they're a manufacturing company, and they were doing it on the side, trying to build this manufacturing company, and they had 3 1099 sales reps. And how many customers did they bring in a year? 1. I was like, wow. So they brought me in. Yeah. Oh, that's a huge problem. They were burning through money so fast. So they brought me in and basically paid me to do some cold calling for them. I got him some customers. And again, what was the challenge? I got him the customers that they said they could fulfill, and they struggled fulfilling the orders because they didn't have any.
Then you realize the operation. Then you realize it doesn't even matter if you fix the front end of the funnel. Like the operational side collapses.
I looked at it and I questioned them. I said, "Are you sure if I bring this customer in and here's who they are, here's how big they are, can you? Yes, we can. Yes, we can." And they screwed the first three I brought in up big time. So
Yeah, so it's funny. I worked with a company as well, a similar challenge, and I think it actually like makes me pause a little bit. Where you come in, you build out a sales team, you build out the process, you get them through execution, and then you get to a place where they can't fulfill, or you can't operationalize, and then then you got to try to figure out to slow down the selling process. So my question is, how can you balance the selling part of it with the fulfillment part, not to overwhelm them? Like, how can you make that a better experience inside the organization and for customers? Because unhappy customers will end up driving, bad reviews. Now people are trying to figure out and back channel every sale. So if you start having bad implementations, like that's not going to bode well for the organization. What are some things that you would recommend customers figure out as they're scaling that go to market for fulfillment?
well, what I've done before myself as kind of in what do we say? I didn't have the title as a leader, but I was one of their sales leaders. Is I kind of help them like do scope letters and say and have the service manager sign off on. Okay, we're both agreeing here. I'm not just selling something. We're both going to say we can accomplish these tasks, and they're going to have their people there for training on these days. And I did very detailed scope letters, and those really helped us out. And then also, also found out that the at one company, the service manager wasn't doing their job very well either because they weren't holding their people accountable for what we sold. So I would recommend putting some type of processes in a place. So when you sell something, what's the once we get a new customer, what's the process? What happens next? And a lot of companies don't have that in place. And for, let's say you have three types of companies, A, B, and C type of companies, you got to have different steps for each type of company. You bring in
Sure.
some monster company, you better have a whole different, get commitment from all the team that you can even run them over or handle them versus, somebody else, like Segram said once, some people are in his book, he says, some companies deserve sparkling water and others deserve champagne. So
That's funny.
yeah.
Very true.
So you got to have a process in place. You can't, and a lot of companies don't. They just kind of had this, and then also, it's just again, it's what's lacking in go to market forever. Now they've done a better job of naming it, but is getting all the teams on the same page is communication. It's just a lack of communication amongst all the teams. On everyone's doing their own sideload stuff, and if everybody got together and said, "What's a good customer look like? Let's all agree on it." And what can we support? What can we support? Some customers we can't support right now. But I work for
Right.
company after company or consulted, and they're, oh no, we can support them, and no, we can't, because once you bring them in, the wheels fall off.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I think that's a problem though, right? Like a lot of consultants, and we talk about this a lot, excuse me, in our business model, trade money for slide decks. In my opinion, they come in, they analyze, they say they analyze, and then they repurpose some slide deck that they've used 27 times. And because I did it at A company, we're going to do it at B company.
Yeah.
And that's the difference between being a consultant and being an operator, right? Like I think in almost every discovery call we have, I've started using the line, we don't trade money for slide decks. We actually don't trade money for time either. We trade money for outcomes. You're hiring us for outcomes. And we're going to build systems, tools, processes to deliver those outcomes. And then we're going to get in there, be hands on keyboards and do it with you. Talk to me about the clients you've worked with. How do you embed yourself with them that they trust you to do the work with them? Because that's very different than the average consultant.
Yeah, and a lot of customers that bring me in, they don't bring me in for always. Some have, but a lot of them just bring me in to kind of help them out. Like, I wouldn't say a Band-Aid, but I mean, I help them go in the right direction. I mean, they're so lost. They don't have any structure at all what their salespeople to do. So I give them some game plans, and then sometimes I'll come back and say, those are great. Okay, now what are some other game plans we could play to get success? Because we've done pretty good with the ones you recommend. So I haven't really had any really long-term engagements. Like I'm talking like a year. I'm talking most. Well, that's not true. I've had a couple that have been a year, but overall they're usually shorter engagements.
People buy from people. That's why companies who invest in meaningful connections win. The best part? Gifting doesn't have to be expensive to drive results, just thoughtful. Sendoso's intelligent gifting platform is designed to boost personalized engagement throughout the entire sales process. Trust me, I led sales for a Sendoso competitor, and I could tell you no one does gifting better than Sendoso. If you're looking for a proven way to win and retain more customers, visit sendoso.com.
I'm curious how you're integrating some of the new technologies and go to market for some of these smaller clients. Are you helping them with integrating AI? Are you helping them with trying to figure out like the next best go to market? Because we know go to market changing every 6 months. How are you helping these smaller organizations do that?
Right now, I would say I am not. I love AI, and I'm for the franchise side of it. Back in March of 2023, I had a lot of business owners in there that barely knew what AI was, and so I introduced them some basic tools, chat tools and stuff, and showed them how I used them, which wasn't super sophisticated. And then a couple months later, I did a follow up, and then I kind of like anybody else that was using it within the company, how we're doing it. And they were, I'd say overall, they weren't super sophisticated, but the first time I did it, I got lots of pushback. People cheat in college, and these are business owners cheat in college. All this, I don't know, like just negativity. And one by one, a couple months later, I'd have a business owner at like a luncheon or something come up to me and say, "I apologize. I finally started using it, and I've got some of our teams using it, and it's saving us hours and hours. Just simple tools like using chat and Claude and things like that to help them in their writing. I'll give you a couple ones that. Let me give you some ones where um, that I have even spoke at and done, and a lot of people seem to like. So right now, Nearbound is a big thing. Partnership. I've been a big partnership person forever. So now Nearbound is a big thing. And I was speaking at the end of last year. I had a big gap on my speaking because COVID, and so I was all excited. And one thing I did is I went around the room and said, "Who here has at least two good referral partners?" Of course, everybody raised because half the room was my customers. Raise their hands. It was packed. And I said, "Okay, how many in 2024, because this is the end of 2024, would like to have two new great referral partners?" Everybody raised their hand. Of course they do. I go, "Okay." I said, "Then why don't we ask chat?" And I had already done this, so I knew there was a roofing company there, window cleaning company there, an inspection company there. And I asked chat, "Hey, I am a 30-year inspection company owner, my wife and I, and here's some partners that we use. Give me another 50 great referral partners." And then I did it another way. Give me another 50 great cross marketing partners. And I ran those. And then the exercise I did was I glanced down and went, "Wow," because I'm into this. I help people all the time figure out good referral partners. I went down, "Wow, that's kind of a great idea." And I'd circle a couple, and then I asked around the room, "Hey," and I'd ask them like 1, 2, 3 referral partners. And of course they said, "Oh yeah, we have them. We have them. We have them." Okay. What about number 25? They went, "Wow, that's a great idea." Anyway, so there's a simple tool using chat, even the free version. And then here's another thing I did. I had a customer that attended a couple of my deals on just simple tools of AI, not high level. I'm not the guy you hire to do the systems integration. Where the chat comes in and then that's you hire. You need to get that, but I'm not that guy. But I had another customer that or lady. I had another customer that was like struggling with some emails, and I said, "Well, why don't you ask chat to rewrite them and ask for a second chance?" They did 10 and got 2 back and said yes. And then here's
Awesome.
another one. This is another idea I got off of someone off a podcast. What a great idea. Okay, your company does proposals, and so you probably have to use the one of the paid versions of like chat 4.5 or whatever it is now to do this, because then you can do the attachments and all this. But what they did is they let's say you did 10 in a 6-month period, you did 10 proposals, and 8 lost and 2 won. Well, you dump them into chat or whatever your AI tool is of choice and say, hey, what's the difference between the losers and winners? These 8 are losers. These 2 are winners. Is there any differences? So there's all these things that people that are scared of AI, I'm like, dip your toe in, man. There's just so many. I mean, I use it every day to proofread my stuff. And I'll give you one other quick tool is if you have a really important email that you're scared you're going to screw up on, you can get a free version of audio. And so you proofread it and then dump it into audio and have it read it back to you. In fact, Bard used to do that. Bard already does that for you. Now it's the new word. It's they changed the name on it. Gemini. I can't remember. Anyway,
Yeah,
is that they
Gemini.
allow you. Yeah, they allow you to like listen to it back. So all these tools are just out there that save you so much time as a business, and I can't believe how many people aren't using them. But anyway, that's a long way to go. I'm not to make them if you're going to get really sophisticated at it. I have actually a partner I have here that does a lot of systems integrations with AI. That I would send him to him.
So we do a ton of work with AI. I think that if you're not using AI, arguably in every part of your sales process and marketing process, I will say that you are behind the 8 ball. People are either going to love me or cancel me for saying that, but I think it's all how you use it. We'll be the first to tell you, like, we don't use AI to write sequences. We don't use AI to write newsletters. We don't use AI for cold outbound. But when you're looking at putting together complex documents, solving complex problems, building anything that is like repeatable over and over, if you're not using AI, you're going to be behind the 8 ball. So I think it's important for any company and any consultant or operator that's working with a company to have a deep, deep understanding of AI, or you're going to find yourself replaced really, really fast, in my opinion. Scott, one of the things I want to touch on is we had mentioned that compensation models are tied to like old behavior, right? And compensation models are what drive rep behavior. Dale and I tell founders all the time when we're talking about developing comp plans, the purpose of the comp plan is to drive the behavior and the outcomes that you want. So along this theory of changing to a more customer-centric go-to-market motion, when you're looking at comp plans, what do you advise as like the ideal comp plan? Because the days of, I think, compensating based on activity or compensating based on meetings attending, like, are those leading to the problems that you speak about in your book?
Oh, absolutely. In fact, real quick, I give and a lot of people push back on me saying that, oh, Scott, sales is different. You always have to have the same KPIs, same compensation, same goals, and same pressure to meet, sometimes impossible goals. That's the only way you can push people to win. You got to push them. And then I go, well, let's look at Wells Fargo Bank. They took cross-selling. That's all. It was cross-selling. I narrowed it down, but I did a big, big deep dive into what went wrong at Wells Fargo. And they turned every bank employee into a salesperson. That's what they did. And they gave them high goals, high commissions. And what happened? 3.5 million fraudulent accounts. That's what happened. So I tell people that, and then also you have buyers that don't want to talk because the word's out. People, why do you think, listen to your local advertisements, and sometimes they'll say, we don't have any salespeople. Why would they have to say that? Because they know that the the car salesman type mentality, a lot of people are embedded that in their brain. And, study after study shows that depending which one you look at, over half buyers, don't want to talk to a salesperson anymore. They're going to go further and further. So I say what you should do is be brave and don't tip the ship over. If you have 10 salespeople, take 2 and do what I recommend, which is change the comp plan to customer-centric. Mean that you're going to give them, if you give them no base or low base, you're going to give them a full freaking salary. And you're going to tell them this, and you're going to let everybody know this is a test, right? We're going to do this, and you're going to be comped on only bringing in the right customers. Well, how do you do that? Well, you ask customer service. How good were those customers? And retention, and expansion. And if you think about it, what's the cost? Companies do in my book, I talk about companies do. If and I've done this before, you ask a company, what's your churn rate of customers? And a lot of them they'll know off the top of their head. What's your churn of sales? They don't know it. What does that cost your company? What happens if your whole company went from the average is 14 to 18 months, 1.5 years, you're getting churn, right? What happens if your whole company Salesforce was at 36 months? What about 48 months was the average compared to the industry? What you do is you do your test, like I said, your test, and I guarantee you that you're going to get some better results, especially if you do an ABM type approach and have them partner with customer service or with marketing and say, hey, we're all on the same page. Everybody's going to be comped, bonus, have full salaries and going to be bonus off of customer success. And then you start bragging on social media and LinkedIn. Hey, folks, our salespeople have 3 times the experience of any of the others, our competitors. Come speak to our sales professionals because they're industry experts and they are compensated on your success. There's what I put in the book. I'm telling you, it's a huge, right now, look at the churn, the way people are scared of salespeople. It's an opportunity for a company to do something different.
Good point. As we got about 4 minutes left, give or take, and we love our rapid fire here. So we want to dive into some rapid fire. Here's the rule, Scott. You have to answer in 10 words or less, or Dale has a super special gong that comes out through your screen and bops you. So 10 words or less to each of these. Ready to go?
Okay. Yep.
All right, here we go. Early bird or night owl?
Boy. Night owl.
What's more important, churn or NRR?
NRR.
Okay.
Where do you start, sales or marketing?
Depends on the company, but sales, you got to get business going in to get things going.
What's the first app you check when you wake up?
I listen to you guys a lot on this one, my calendar, because I do podcasts sometimes around the country, and I can get screwed up if I don't check the calendar first thing, and then right from there to LinkedIn.
Nice.
What's the song that gets you in the zone for work?
Styx, Fooling Yourself. Love that song because it's just like it's a, some days aren't the best days, and that song's like, get up. I just love that song, so it motivates me.
Last one. What is your dream vacation destination?
Hawaii, for sure.
Hawaii.
Nice.
I've been to each of 2 Eastern Caribbean cruises, and man, I've just never been to Hawaii. So my wife and I would love to be in Hawaii.
There you go.
Nice. Hawaii is awesome. I've done. I was blessed enough to do Maui a couple times on a President's Club trip. It's a little far to get to for us folk here in Florida, but it's a great place. Scott, we are so grateful that you joined the show. Thank you for spending time with us. Thank you for sharing your insights. Where can people find you? Where can people get your book? Go ahead and shamelessly plug.
Yeah, the books. You get either of my books on Amazon. Just go Scott Marker. And reach. My big thing is reach out to me on LinkedIn. That's the best way to get a hold of me because I always tell people, I give away a lot of my ideas and stuff on. I'm committed to more and more videos on LinkedIn and posting them. And so LinkedIn, and then this is kind of a branding thing. So if you look, maybe I won't have my glasses on. I can't remember. I think I do have my glasses on now, but this is you'll be able to Scott Marker and look for the shirt and the glasses.
I love it. Scott, thank you so much for joining. It was a pleasure. As always, tune in, learn about how you can change your revenue and how to scale appropriately. Thanks, everyone.